Hi, I'm Tricia Stefaniak, and I've had the opportunity in the last 4 years to completely reinvent myself from a 20 plus year career and a just under 10 year career. And I've just been really reflecting on how did I get here? And I want to share it with you because as you work with me, this will help you have some insights into my heartbeat for you. So, as I was reflecting back, I realized I have been prepared for this real estate position almost my entire life. And let me tell you why. Some of the things ahead might surprise you, and some of the things ahead might not. But here we go. My first moving experience was when I was finishing up my sophomore year in high school, and I lived in the south suburbs of Chicago, Lansing, Illinois, and I was attending a school that, if I remember correctly, was definitely over 1,000, maybe approaching the 1,500 to even maybe 2,000 mark. I'm not quite sure. Just, it was a very, very large school. And my parents decided to move us to a more rural area. We got there maybe a month and a half prior to my sophomore year ending. And I know you won't believe this, but I was so quiet that when we started the junior year, even though I had been at the school for a couple months, they thought I was a new student again. Maybe getting my braces off had something to do with that, but I thought that was kind of funny. And it prepared my heart for my clients who are moving in that space where it might not be the greatest transition for their kiddos, but it's a necessary move. So I can understand the heartbeat of those kids, and I can understand the heartbeat of the parents as well, because it's really hard to make those decisions when you know developmentally or educationally the shift might be difficult. And it was definitely difficult to go from such a huge school to a class of 80 something. That's a whole nother story. Then my next move, unexpectedly, was when I was 17. I actually threw all my belongings in black trash bags, quit my job, closed my bank account, and moved from my family's home back to the south suburbs of Chicago. Within a week, I was working downtown at the Board of Trade and enrolled in a community college at 17. The Board of Trade people didn't even know I wasn't 18 when they hired me. So that transition was fast, furious, and scary as hell. However, it grew me in ways that were very unexpected. And as a 17-year-old, I really started to engage with the world in a different way than the average 17-year-old. So it was again, scary, but it prepared my heart for those people who have to move on the fly and might have to throw their stuff in a bag and go. So we can talk about that later. You can DM me, we can meet for coffee, and I'll tell you that story, because it was a pretty powerful story. I didn't do that because I was a brat, by the way. I did that because it was a very, very needed step in my life. Then I moved into my first apartment, and then I got married, and I moved into my first house. And that first home buyer experience is just something so special. We moved into a house to be closer to family because my mother-in-law had been diagnosed with cancer at the time. And that move was so special because, one, it was a big step for my husband and I, but two, it allowed us to care for her. So it prepared my heart for sellers that are in this mode of milestone changes. So first home buyer and also caring for family, maybe for an illness or stage of life. I just had the absolute honor of serving a client who the mother-in-law was moving in for some memory care, and I loved getting to know her and caring for her through the process of her moving into their home just as much as I cared for my clients. And it was a very special transaction for me. Then that first home buyer transitioned into life got in the way of something amazing. It broke and I needed to move in with family really quick. And I did that for a short period of time. And then I was called across the US and moved from the Chicago area to the Phoenix area, all by myself. No one on my emergency contact card, did not know a soul, for a brand new job as a teacher where the school was not even built. Like when I looked at my classroom, it had no ceiling. The glorious part of that was the development of my independence, the development of my risk taking in a wise way. Also, being able to understand my clients who are relocating from one type of city to another type of city. It blew my mind. I was used to pretty much a city culture with Chicago, you know, the black leather jackets and jeans and all the business people, and you went to a party in Chicago and it was nylons and a cocktail dress. And then I moved to Arizona and it was jeans and t-shirts. I even think I went to a couple weddings that was the attire, which blew my mind. But it's just a different culture. Plus it's hotter, so the professional world is more business casual than dressy like Chicago. But it really helped me understand the concept of changing cultures. Even in from city to city, there are so many community feels and vibes, and how do I find my clients the right ones? So that was a really cool transition for me. And also, it probably was that moment, even though I was 29, where I became an adult in a way that I hadn't yet even become, because I had no one to rely on except for myself. So that was an amazing move. And I love how it prepared my heart to listen and really care for people who are going through such a big transition. Then I am a little bit of an overachiever, if you know me. And I was a teacher. The principal of the high school that was being built walked past my classroom every day, and he's like, I have to have you at my high school. So I got my secondary certification for being an educator, and I started teaching high school chem physics, and it was an absolute blast to have another shift in my career culture. A middle school science to high school science was a wonderful, wonderful adventure, and I just have had so much fun with all my students, and it was such a blessed time in my life. And yet I wanted to develop even further. And so I took a secondary job where I was working at the school from 7:30, gave up my prep hour, to 3:30, coached to 5:30, went home, ate, graded papers, fell asleep for a few hours, and then had to be at work at midnight. I got this really cool night job of taking in transactions from stores and then pushing them out to the banks. It was a really interesting job. And I did that for 9 months. I possibly almost killed myself because toward the end I was falling asleep on the way to work pretty frequently. But because I pressed in, and this is why I am so for sweat equity, earning that home, working hard for it, because there is just nothing like having skin in the game, like having that blood, sweat, and tears toward a goal. When you achieve the goal, it's just sweeter. I really do feel it's just sweeter. I, as a teacher and coach and little technology job, I built a brand new build. And that process was super exciting and stressful and creative. And it really prepared my heart for the clients that I have gotten to walk alongside of in new builds, which is really important, by the way. I don't know if you realize when you have a new build, the Colorado buyer contract is very buyer friendly, and it protects you a lot. The seller too, but really the buyer is represented well in those contracts. When you do a new build, the builder is represented well. And the client that I had, we sat down at the closing table, and they had the entryway of her and her husband in the deed incorrect, where if one of them would have passed, they would have ended up in probate. So I was able to catch the contractual error and save them a lot of legal fees because I was representing them. Also, people don't realize that with new builds, you should do inspections. And that's something that I learned, like you have to do an inspection even though it's a new build. It doesn't mean it's done correctly, and you have to be protected and have to have someone with like who has your back. So that experience of being a woman all by myself and doing a new build, I can't tell you how proud I was of myself, and it opened up my life to my new chapter of pretty unique love story, and we can go to coffee on that. And all of a sudden, my life totally shifted unexpectedly. Would have never seen it coming. And I went from, all by myself to married with a 10-month, 15-month-old and pregnant with my second. My kids are really close together. My daughter just turned 21 and my son is about to turn 20 in a few months. And all of a sudden we needed to upsize because the house I built all by myself didn't have the space that we needed. So that prepared me for upsizing and having that amazing house that you put your roots in and having that equity behind you. That house gained my family $75,000 in equity to put into a home that was bigger. So I understand that transition really well and what's necessary and how glorious it is to actually have something behind you in equity. The first house is always the hardest because you're walking in with nothing behind you, in a sense. So then babies, just two, and all of a sudden, God just opened a door where my husband's job told him, hey, we have a position in Colorado. So I'll do a timeline for you. Chicago, 29, almost 30 years. Arizona, 10 years. And then I have now been in Colorado 14 years, entering into my 15th year. And that relocation came back up. But now the relocation wasn't just me all by myself. The relocation was me and a whole family. A 5 and 6 years old. My 6-year-old just turned 7 right before we came. So that is a very busy season. You are taking care of the things that your husband needs, the things that the household needs, the things that your kids need, and all the while packing and cleaning and, having to say goodbye to friends. I think that was the hardest thing. I sat my best friend down across a booth at a restaurant, and I let her know that I was moving. I'm getting emotional. It was probably one of the hardest things to share with someone because I think God had just developed such an incredible community for my family in Arizona. And that is why community is such a pillar to what I want to provide for my clients and be part of in my neighborhood. And so that designed my heart to appreciate community and then understand the heartbeat of when a family moves across the country. I'm not done. So we move. My husband has to go first. And I am left behind for almost 2 months. And I will tell you, there is a reason that parenthood is a partnership, because it was the most exhausting season that I felt. And being separated was another layer of understanding when families can't come all together. And I got to work with a family this year. I was on the buy side, they were on the sell side, and the wife had been in another state for almost 6 months, and to see them really make an effort to connect during that 6 months was just joyful to my heart, and I could totally feel the stress of it as well. And I just got to pray for those people. Even though they were being represented by someone else, I was able to have great conversations with them and pray for them as they were making their transition and my buyers were purchasing their home. And I have had the absolute pleasure and opportunity to grow my community in Colorado, still maintain dear friends in the Midwest, dear friends in Arizona, and Colorado has just been a very special season for my family. Again, my kids got here very little, and now my daughter is about to graduate from Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. So the seasons of elementary and middle school and high school, we had planted roots here that had been the longest, and we just have such close friends. Our neighborhood, the school community, all of those things, it just makes me understand when my clients are upsizing, when my clients are relocating, when my clients are selling so they can relocate. My heartbeat is just so layered that I feel like when I bring myself into an opportunity to serve someone, I'm truly listening from what ear is the most important for me to listen from. And that is probably the secret sauce, maybe, however you want to say it, superpower. I love listening to people's heartbeats. I love connecting them to that home, and I love bringing joy and excitement, but also a calm when things don't go quite right. And I will tell you that around every corner of something not going right, around every corner from that moment, my clients have found a better home, a better location. It just happened to one of my clients recently. He has a very specific budget. We were looking in a lot of different places, and he found a place that he really liked, and it had a garage. It was like, this is awesome. It got under contract while he was deciding if he wanted to put an offer in or not. He's a first-time home buyer. That first one is always hard. And we did a special search just for that location because he liked that location. One popped up. The garage was closer. All the upgrades were in it. Like, it was so much more him, a view of all the mountains. So it's lovely to bring, I'm only 54, but the experiences that I've had thus far literally hit every genre or life milestone or experience of why you need to move. Leaving your parents' home, moving with your parents, moving. I also had 2 experiences of having to move my Nana, who is just the most special ever. We had her till 104 and 7 months. This woman was the absolute matriarch of our family. And even experiencing that move of someone from their home into my sister's home, that level of empathy, but also of the nuts and bolts that are so important, and to maintain their independence and promote their independence in that as well as my mom passing and having to get her house transitioned really fast. So again, like, just the layers of empathy that an experience that God has allowed me to walk through, blowing my mind when I'm thinking backwards of, like, how did I land in real estate from being a teacher, being a ministry director? It was always like in that curriculum educational platform. And again, that's why education is a pillar. But when I look backwards, there's not one reason that people move that I have not experienced. And I thought that was absolutely astounding when I started to think backwards into my experience. So that is who you're getting. You're getting someone who can understand, no matter the circumstance, has walked through with my own heart what you're walking through. And it just fills me with such joy and energy to be able to serve people from that platform, from the, I get this, like and I don't even have to like share my experience with you and, you know, like, oh, I did this, I did that. I just get to be present with you and my heartbeat feels it. And then we get to rock out contracts and shop and get you connected to resources and lenders and just amazing, amazing things along the way to make it as seamless and sensational and stress-free as possible. But I just wanted to take the time. You see me on the home tours and you're gonna see me in the community. And I just wanted you to see me and know who you get when you're going through a life transition that brings you into or out of a home. So I'd love to walk alongside you. I'd love to match your heartbeat. Just value you along the way and find that house that matches your heartbeat. So look forward to working with you. I'm with EXP. It's an incredible team. My reach is national and in 24 plus countries right now. I'm so excited for the next chapter and all the people that I get to serve. Thanks for being with me today. Thanks for listening to my journey. I can't wait to be part of yours. Talk with you soon.